Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Our next most important philosopher is Joseph Stalin. Period of Joseph Stalin was 1879 to 1953. Joseph Stalin was a strong dictator and leader of Soviet Union about 3 decades. He remained a most powerful Secretary General of Communist Party in Soviet Union from 1922 to 1953. He was not only a philosopher but also a revolutionary leader in Soviet Union. Stalin was also the leading member of the Marxist movement, yet he did not play a major role in the Communist Revolution of 1917 in Russia. He became Secretary General of Communist Party of Russia in 1922. The position brought for him the fame and influence in Communist Party and administration. He was the main contender for the succession of Lenin. On the death of Lenin, he was successful to achieve his objectives of succession of Lenin. Stalin's main characteristics of his personality was the total ruthlessness and cruelties. He had no sentiments of kindness. He destroyed and he played his role against the suppression of his opposition. He was a person who played a unique role in Soviet Union, and his philosophy highlighted about the interpretation of Leninism. If we examine his famous writings, then we find out his 2 major works. Number 1, Foundations of Leninism in 1924, and second was Problems of Leninism. Stalin's contributions to the theory consist mainly of his interpretations of Lenin's writings, and in his writings he clearly explained his views about the dangers of imperialist capitalism and in support of his arguments for the building of a socialism in Soviet Union. He clearly says that communism and socialism can no exist long side by side, and the country must be prepared for the inevitable conflict. So, his views about socialism clearly explained in his writings. Problems of communism. In his book entitled Problems of Leninism, one of the most important contributions to communist doctrine made by Stalin is his most famous and popular contribution, Socialism in One Country. So, I explain you first of all Lenin's views about socialism in one country. Earlier, Marxist writers had maintained the position that revolution in one country would collapse unless it was supported by revolutions in other countries, particularly neighboring countries. In his address to the Communist League, Marx had pointed out that capitalism would always strike back and end socialist revolution unless revolution in one country were followed by revolutions in other countries and unless the proletariat had seized power in the leading countries of the world. Lenin too thought of socialist revolution in international terms. Other followers of Karl Marx, for example, Trotsky and others, had taken view that Russia was a springboard for a world revolution and that communist revolution in Russia could not last if the rest of the world were allowed to remain capitalist. Revolution in Russia could last and be permanent if the tempo of revolution were maintained and if there were upsurge of revolution elsewhere. This is the theory of permanent revolution formulated by Trotsky. Communist doctrine before Stalin went against the idea of socialism in one country. One of the most important contributions to communist doctrine made by Stalin in his book Problems of Leninism is his theory that socialism in one country, Russia, was possible even when Russia was surrounded by a hostile capitalist world. Stalin further explained that socialism in one country, Russia, was possible because of the vast untapped resources of Russia, which, if properly exploited, could make Russia self-sufficient and capable of defense against capitalist bloc. Stalin, however, felt that socialism in Russia alone, though possible, was not absolutely secure so long as the rest of the world remained capitalist. It was because of this that after the Second World War, Stalin tried to bring about the encirclement of Russia by communist and not capitalist countries. This is very important point regarding this discussion. Stalin's doctrine of revolution in one country is very, very important and also considered as a major contribution of Stalin. It led to the adoption of the view that Russia could insulate herself and adopt an attitude of cooperation or opposition as against the capitalist world, irrespective of the demands and considerations of world revolution. It compelled Russia to become internally strong and with this end in view set up a totalitarian state. This point is also very important that Stalin wants to make Russia a strong communist country against capitalist bloc and also prepare for a dominant role in world politics. To become economically strong, Russia adopted Stalin's 5-year plans. Stalin introduced different 5-year plans for economic prosperity and stability, which led to the establishment of a huge bureaucracy with vast powers. It resulted in the growth of the spirit of nationalism, which went counter to the Marxian doctrine of international communism. So, when we discuss about different aspects of Stalin's philosophy and Stalin's contributions, then we find out that he wants Soviet Union as a strong communist bloc and to play very important and dominant role all over the world. And he was also fully aware about the encirclement of Russia by communist and not by capitalist countries. Stalin's doctrine of revolution in one country had important aspect of communist practice and theory. It led to the adoption of the view that Russia could insulate herself and adopt an attitude of cooperation or opposition as against the capitalist world. Overall, these views regarding the revolution in one country considered very important contributions. Now I explain you next most important aspect of Stalin's views in regarding the Marxism. His views on revolution. Stalin believed in the inevitability and naturalness of revolution. If the passing of slow quantitative changes into rapid and abrupt qualitative changes is a law of development, then it is clear that revolutions made by oppressed classes are a quite natural and inevitable phenomenon. Capitalism could be replaced by socialism only by a revolution. This point is also very important. I repeat it again that Stalin clearly highlighted his views that capitalism could be replaced by socialism only by a revolution. Believing in the necessity of revolution, Stalin agreed with Lenin's views regarding the role of a highly disciplined group of trained revolutionaries. So he justified professional concept of Lenin professional revolutionaries. In spite of his belief in revolution in one country, Stalin did not leave the communist doctrine of word revolution. Word revolution was necessary because no socialist country was secure against the possibility of a counter-revolution by a well-organized and determined capitalism. So, according to Stalin, capitalism will not yield to sociology in any country without revolution. So, according to Stalin, capitalism not did yield to socialism in any country without revolution. Stalin's views about revolution and his different aspects of his philosophy regarding revolution. If we analyze his views on revolution, then we find out that Stalin was only concerned with feasibility of creating socialism in the country like Soviet Union after it became evident that expected proletarian revolution in the advanced capitalist countries had failed to materialize. He further explained and he believed affairs must be made to cultivate seeds of revolution in other countries while industrializing Russia and making it world power. If revolutions failed to materialize, it will invite the capitalist intervention and definite defeat of proletarian. So, encouraging revolution in capitalist country should be carried on strongly. Stalin's, this is also very important point, Stalin's views regarding revolution. He further explains that he had since long created supporting organization within Communist Party on which he could rely on necessary support. If under Lenin the party became the vanguard of the proletariat, under Stalin the dictatorship become the vanguard of the party. So in Stalin's period or in his period, he promoted his own dictatorship for a stronghold in a communist party. For effective control of the party, Stalin destroyed those who challenged his supremacy in the name of proletarian dictatorship. He also destroyed the wealthy peasants and other elements, and Stalin was of the view that Russia must be a powerful socialist country if vast untapped resources are discovered and exploited, and then Russia will be self-sufficient and capable of defense against capitalist bloc. So Soviet Union adopted 5-year plans for attaining huge economic strength, for attaining economic stability and prosperity in the country. Stalin, as a Marxist, believed in the different aspects of revolution, inevitability and naturalness of revolution. He further explained that if the passing of slow quantities changes into rapid and abrupt qualitative changes in the law of development, then it is clear that revolutions made by the oppressed classes are quite natural and inevitable. I also explained this point, and this point I repeated again here. So, believing in the necessity of revolution, Stalin clearly followed Lenin, and he clearly justified his concept of professional revolutionaries. After examining Stalin's views about revolution, I explained you Stalin's concept of the totalitarian state. Because of the different aspects of Stalin's philosophy, different circumstances of his time, and according to the requirement of circumstances, Stalin converted the state in Russia into a monolithic totalitarian autocracy supported by a vast centralized bureaucracy. In the 1936 Constitution, known as the Stalin Constitution, there is revision back to the use of words state and citizen instead of the Soviet and the proletariat. This point is also very, very important. I repeat it again, that in Marxist theory, Marx wrote about stateless and classless society. But in the 1936 Constitution, known as the Stalin Constitution, there is the revision back to the use of words state and citizen instead of Soviet and proletarian. This was clear a big change in Marxism through Stalin views. Marx had assigned to force a role less important than those of economic and social processes. Stalin gave the pride of place to force, power. So, for all practical purpose, Stalin discards the Marxian theory of the withering away of the state. According to Engels, the state was to wither away as soon as the means of production were nationalized and the classless society made its appearance. According to Stalin, in spite of nationalization and classless society, the state in Russia could not wither away because of capitalist encirclement. The state would wither away if and when the capitalist encirclement was replaced by socialist encirclement. Stalin is definitely gave less importance than Marx and Lenin, and he became more totalitarian. So his views as compared to Marx and Lenin, Stalin gave the concept and idea of totalitarianism due to his different policies, due to his role as a most powerful ruler in the Soviet Union. As a Marxist, Stalin believes that matter is primary and is the source of ideas, mind and sensation. Thought is the product of matter. To Stalin, dialectical development does mean only quantitative changes but also qualitative changes. It is an onward and upward movement from the simple to the complex, from struggle between the positive and the negative, between old and new, between past and future. Stalin, like all Marxists or followers of Karl Marx, also believes in the inevitability of changes in the direction of the higher form of social organization, socialism. During this discussion, different aspects of Stalin's theory, and if we make an analysis of Stalin's different aspects, then we find out that Stalin played very important role in Soviet Union as a strong leader, strong Secretary General of Communist Party and a powerful ruler, and to play his role in a very powerful ways, and according to circumstances, as Lenin had made many changes in Marxism, in the same way, according to circumstances, Stalin inverted Leninism and he played his role by rule of strong bureaucracy, and as a powerful ruler and leader, he tried his best to make Soviet Union a superpower and a communist bloc against the capitalist bloc. While concluding this topic, we can very easily analyze and compare views of Lenin, Marx, and Stalin. If we analyze, if we make a comparison, then we find out that Karl Marx presented his theories, his philosophy according to his own circumstances, according to industrial revolution, problems of industrial revolutions, and for the betterment of worker class or proletarian class. So, Karl Marx highlighted his contributions in a theoretical way, but Lenin clearly explained, he clearly followed Karl Marx, but according to circumstances, according to his own circumstances, according to political, economic, social, and different other factors in Soviet Union, Lenin interpreted in Marxism, and he became a successful leader for a successful revolution of 1917 in Soviet Union by his Communist Party, by his concept of professional revolutionaries, by a strong organization in the party, by different other tactics. And in the same way, Stalin tried his best to make Soviet Union a strong, powerful country in world politics, and particularly against communist bloc. He made in his period Soviet Union a superpower against capitalist bloc, and he highlighted that his major theories, which I explained you about revolution in one country, his views about revolution, concept of totalitarian state, a strong communist party, a strong bureaucracy, all his changes can be traced very easily because he played his role according to his period, according to requirement of those circumstances which he faced. And I conclude this discussion by saying that Lenin made his contributions and changes in Marxism, and Stalin made changes in philosophy and in different aspects of Leninism. So, interpretation by Lenin in Marxism and Stalin's interpretation in Leninism cannot be denied. Marx, Lenin, and Stalin played their own role according to their own circumstances and their own problems which they faced according to their own conditions. So, Stalin and Lenin both were followers of Karl Marx, but they made different interpretation according to the requirement of their own circumstances. So that is the end of our today's discussion. Allah Hafiz.